So for step 9, attaching the steering linkage. Well, we're actually going to be doing a lot more than that in this step. So there's the steering linkage that we put together a couple of steps ago, but we've also got these pieces here that we're going to install. We've got this, which is another bit of the steering that's going to need to go in. We've also got body mount posts that they want us to put on, which is interesting. Seems early, but we're going to be putting those on. And then we're going to put on that whole front lower arm that we did in the previous step and attaching that to the chassis as well and putting in the drive cups. So essentially we're building a lot of the front end in this step. So it's a lot more than the steering linkage. Now here's all of the hardware that we need for putting this together. And there are the other bits that you had to cut off the parts tree. But here's one thing to note. You'll see here it says D1 and you take those arms off. Well, D1 was that very first thing. Okay, so that's on that parts tree. But then when you go to this body mount, notice it says D1. So you might go, well, we just cut off D1 and it was this piece. Where's D1? Just make a note that for some reason the body mounts are in a separate bag that is also called D. I'm not sure I've seen that before either. So the body mount posts actually are in a separate bag altogether, but with the same parts tree letter D. No idea why, but that's how it's been done. So I'm just going to set this all up, and I think we'll start by installing the linkage. So I think the best way to do this step is we'll attach this using this tapping screw, the step screw, the BB3s, so that we have this solid before we start working on this where we have to have a piece come up from the underside and up. So if we grab our step screw, it's showing you that there needs to be a step screw that goes through and then the washer fits between the two plastic bits. So if we grab our washer, we're going to stick our step screw through there. Then it's going through the plastic. Then there's the washer. So, and it's going to attach to this one right here. So we'll put that on. There we go. And I'll start screwing that down. Now, just going to check to make sure that it's going in properly. Yes, it is. Now, I'm not going to screw it in all the way. We'll wait until the other part's done. But you see, at least this is on solid. So now we can take that other piece, which is going to go up. And you can see it's going up through this hole right here. It sits in there like that. And once it's up, you can see that there is a screw that's going to attach it to the bottom of that piece. So if we stick that in, we put that in the correct spot because it's basically sitting over top of it. Oh, you see how that went through and up. Okay, so this piece is actually sitting on top of it, and you can feel that it is sort of, it can be pushed on. And you can see that how that's going to all work. So from that point, now that that is pushed on, we're just using one of the BA3 screws, the smaller ones, to screw that into the base of the plastic piece we just put on. turn this so we've got more leverage. And I'm just going to grab, using my other hand, I'm actually going to hold on to that steering piece because it wants to move. There we go. And because that's now in, I'll tighten this one now. And there we go. So there is our steering linkage in place. And you can see on the other side, which obviously this is going to be attached to the servo. That's how the steering's going to work with this. So now that that's in place, we still need to put the ball connector onto that, which is what's going to attach to the servo. And I could have done it the other way and actually put that on first, but I didn't. So we're going to do it this way. And in fact, if I turn it this way, I'll use my finger on the other side, make sure that that's level. I'll use my box wrench to help with the placement. Make sure that it's actually going in straight. Yes, it is. Actually, maybe I'll do it this way too, because I can use my thumb to hold it in place. Actually, I think I've got it mostly all the way. I do. So there we go. So that's the sort of the next little bit of this, is that that's the piece that the servo is going to be using to make the steering work. So again, let's, now that that linkage is all in place, let's put on these suspension pieces as well. And they're identical, so it's just a matter of using the bigger ends, and they will be snapping onto here. So I think we'll just end up snapping them on. Just like that. So there's one. And we'll do the other side. I might try using the... Nope, there we go. Okay, so those two pieces are on now. So we've got our linkage on and we've got these pieces on. So now that we've got all of that on, we need to now attach the body mount posts. And the reason the body mount posts are going on now is because once we start, fixing up the front end, adding more and more pieces, you're not going to be able to get to the screw hole to put this in properly. So we're going to grab our BB1 screws, they're a little longer, and these BB4 washers, which are the bigger ones, and we're going to need to attach those posts. So let's just grab one of these. So if we grab our chassis, we're going to need to put in that screw there, which is going to sit flush. And then on this side, you can see that there has to be the bigger washer. And you can see the way that sits, it looks like it's a hexagonal thing. In other words, depending on what the kit was, there was probably something else that fits there. But this is going to sit over top of that. And then we're going to screw our body mount. So if I'm going to do it this way, it's going to be easier to see and easier to hold. So let's screw that in that way. There we go. Now, I'm going to ease off for a second, because one of the things to notice is you see the way there's a line through that. That actually means that the holes need to be facing sideways. So if you look at this, these holes need to be facing across so that the pins are going in sideways. So to lock this in, we just got to make sure that that's how we've got it sitting. Get it there. There. So there is one body mount post. So we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. So we'll grab our washer and our screw, and same idea, put the screw in there, put the larger washer on the other side, and grab our body mount post. So again, grab the screwdriver, and we'll start screwing it in. And just make sure it's lengthwise. So there we go. There are our two body mount posts, and the holes are aligned that way. So there we go. There is the first part of step 9 complete. So now we're going to move on to the second bit, where we're going to put on those the front upper or lower arms that we'd put together in the previous step, and then we've got to put in the shafts and everything else. So we'll move on to that now. So first off, I would say let's get these into the gearbox so that they're out of the way. And I had shot this in so we could, you know, I would show you greasing it up, but I forgot to hit record. So I've already greased these up. So we're going to stick these into here. So the longer one goes in at this side. And the shorter one goes in at the other. So there we go. There are our drive cups in place. So now that that's done, we need to put that top piece on, which is the lower arms from the previous step. Now, when you're doing this, just make sure that you haven't got these all over the place when we were moving them around, right? Because if you do, when you actually put this on, you're going to end up locking it in place in the wrong spot. So before you do that, just make sure that these arms are in their correct position. Now we can take this and sit it on top and start screwing it down. Now, because we put in the body mount posts, I can't really put on a lot of pressure, because otherwise you could actually damage the posts. So what I want to do is just go around, make sure that I'm getting these in, and I can actually use my thumb to hold it up from the front, but I think we're going to screw this in from the side. It would just be, it makes more sense, because otherwise you're putting a lot of pressure on these posts. So at this point, because that is in, I'm going to use my thumb, hold it down, and screw it in. And again, as before, I'm going around and just making sure that everything is going in properly. I don't want to put pressure on anything, and just want to make sure that it's all going in. There, I can feel it reaching the end points. Just do a little check as we go around. Yeah, so there you go. So there are the lower arms now attached, and these are in their correct position and out of the way. So that part is done. So now the last part of this step is we need to attach this with the step screw. So if we grab all those arms that we were working on before, we need to put the step screw through the arm. Then there needs to be the washer on the other side before you attach it to here. So if we get that right, I'm now going to grab our screwdriver. Make sure that is correct, yes. And now we can screw this in. And there we go. So there's one. And we'll do the same on the other side. So pull this in, grab our step screw, put that through the arm, and grab our washer. Put that on the other side. And then put that into the hole. And grab our screwdriver. And screw it in. And there we go. So there are the arms in the front attached. We've got everything in place. We've got our body mounts. So we are now finished with step 9. So we can now move on to step 10, which is working on the front uprights.